So when we are stressed out and overwhelmed, every task, everything we need to do feels urgent and important. And when it's there, it's very difficult to decide which things do we actually tend to and which things can we put off. Basically, there's urgent and important, urgent, not important, not urgent, but important, and not urgent, not important. Welcome to Fated to Fabulous, the podcast for women who know that midlife is not the end. It's the beginning of something bold. I'm Kim Lovely, and I'm here with Vicki Kirby. We're here to talk to you about health, hormones, confidence, and joy. Midlife isn't about fading away. It's about stepping into your power and shining brighter than ever. Let's get into it.
Welcome, ladies. We're so excited to have you back. We're going to tackle a conversation that can be a little bit tough, a little bit more emotional, a little less whimsical. We're going to talk about the sandwich generation. And I do love the title of this, Surviving the Sandwich Generation, the Art of Reclaiming Time and Priorities.
So, Vicki, I hear you use that terminology, sandwich generation. So the first thing I'd like to do is have you kind of define it for our audience, and then kind of speak to it from your perspective, because you are in the absolute thickest spot of the sandwich generation.
Yeah. So sandwich generation, if you have not heard this term, is really referring to women pretty much of our generation who are in the throes of still parenting children, small children, or sort of our, what do you call them, fake grown-ups?
Fake adults.
Fake adults that haven't really left and still need support, while we're also dealing with the failing health of our elderly parents who very likely didn't plan super well for this season of their life, while we're also in the height of our career and tackling menopause. That's the sandwich generation, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm in it. I can speak to it very vividly. I will give an example. So I have, my 19 and 22-year-old girls, and my mom has Alzheimer's, and I'm her POA. She's in memory care.
Vicki, what's a POA?
Oh, power of attorney.
Okay.
So that means so my mom is someplace where she is safe and cared for, and I'm responsible for the phone calls that come in about her, any medical decisions, any legal decisions, her finances, any extras, all the things. So this was about, I think, 2 years ago maybe, and I was giving a talk on caregiver burnout. This is where the irony comes in. Big talk on caregiver, burnout. And when I'm giving a big talk, and I the day of, that morning is sacred. Everybody knows, leave me be. I have to get a walk in. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to rehearse a little bit and be do my hair and all the things. Yeah. So I'm it's going to be a no drama day. Starts off with a phone call, and it's a parent, friend, and our girls were in some sort of drama, and it involved the school. So I'm starting off already I guess I don't need that second cup of coffee. So the funny thing is I go give this talk and I'm on my way home, right? And then the talk went well. It was great. I'm on the way home and I get a call. Hi, this is the nurse from Bowman Place, and your mom hurt her finger. So you're going to have it looked at. So prime example kind of the sandwich generation.
Start of the day
I was
dealing with
this
child.
Is so ironic that I'm giving this talk today. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you're in it. You can speak, because we always joke about how you've kind of gotten over a lot of the hump that I'm kind of living in currently. But you're still in it.
I'm still in it.
You're still in it. Talk about your situation.
Yeah. So in the midst of my menopause, I had very similar ages, actually, as your kids, maybe a little tiny bit younger. My mom had Alzheimer's disease and had been in a nursing home for quite a while. There was lots of drama and things happening with her, and, my dad wasn't well and all the things. And I was flying back and forth to Nova Scotia at least every other week for a while.
Wow.
Yeah. And my kids, Catherine was a second-year college student living in Halifax. It was a disaster. The whole thing, her living situation was a disaster. She was flunking out of school. It was Horrible. And then I had a child in high school, still at home, my type 1 diabetic, my, challenging kid who, quite frankly, didn't want to be a diabetic.
Sure.
Which a lot of teenagers don't, right? So just trying to navigate all of that. And quite frankly, I was working in a situation which wasn't very fulfilling for me. And I was sort of having a lot of conflict there too. So it was a really rough spot. So I remember how brutal that was. My mom has since passed. My dad is still alive. He's 90. And I joke with my sibling that I have a sibling that I have a great relationship with. And he just keeps breaking things, right? Like it's just, and there are times when my brother will spare me, like wait a day or two to call me if I'm on vacation, like, oh, hey, just wanted to let you know, Dad's in the hospital, he broke something. So, this summer he calls me, goes, yeah, so, he fell, he broke his kneecap. So it's just sort of this constant breaking of things. And so I still have the elderly parent that I'm trying to navigate, and he's clearly aged a lot in the last 6 months or so. Interestingly, he owns that. I have one kiddo who is living an independent life, lives with her partner, has a great job. Like she, for the most part, really has her act together. Like we are quite impressed with her. And then I have one who still lives at home, and he is fake adulting, I guess that would be the word. He's building a business. He can't afford to live anywhere else. My husband jokes about being his PA, which basically means that he does absolutely everything for him, his laundry, his dog care, his, picking up after him, all the things, his medical stuff, all that. And I do very little of that. It's been better for my marriage and my mental health to sort of pick my battles wisely and step aside from that with having to set boundaries a bit in the house, right? Where I need some space of peace and quiet.
And boundaries are so good, but don't you find too, what's tough about that is you can say, I'm not going to do blank. But at the same time, every time you get the phone call about something that's happening, your nervous system kicks up in response. So it still weighs in your heart and in your brain. Yeah. So Kim, I'm going to jump in and ask you to put on your coaching hat, which you always have on. As she
asked or not, right?
Permission to coach is what Kim will say. You're coaching a ton of women. So we share so many patients who are in midlife and struggling with this balance and how to juggle being in the sandwich generation. What kinds of things are you telling women to do to kind of stay afloat?
Okay. So one of the things, I have sorts of fun little activities that I love doing in my office. And one of them is sort of looking at energy. We have a finite amount of energy. It is not infinite, right? So because of that, we have to be careful as to where we allocate it. And sometimes I think women don't necessarily think about it that way. They just keep giving and giving and giving and giving until eventually either they crack or something really slides, usually their own, or they get sick. And we're going to talk a little bit about how sick people can get. Sure. I love this one, and I forget whether I did it with you before, but I have a big bowl of rocks.
Oh, your stones.
My stones, yeah. And
it.
So they came from the beach in New Hampshire. I didn't mean to, be quiet about that, but they're from the north part of the beach. And I ask women, we set up papers on the floor that might say things like family, career, parents, fitness, nutrition, health, whatever sort of are the topics that person is trying to balance. And then I ask them to put where they believe the amount of their energy is going based on the number of stones. Yeah. Right? So then we look at it. And we're like, okay, so it looks as though of the 12 stones, 10 of them are in family. Is that okay? Like, how is that working for you? And usually it's like, well, it's not. Okay. So
great visual.
Yeah. So if your health, if your fitness, if your nutrition, if your friendships are important to you, they actually have to get some energy. Right. So then we look at it like, okay, how would you designate your energy based on these rocks? And so it gets people real, and it's really fun because you'll see someone.
Great activity.
I think it's fun.
Sometimes you can think about it, but it's so nebulous. But if you visually see that, it can sometimes really be shocking. Like, oof, I need some more rocks.
Yeah, and it creates some tears. And yes, some women will say, "Got another bowl of rocks?" And I'm like, no. Remember, finite, right?
Yeah.
There is not an unending list of rocks. So then we can kind of say, where do you want it? And what does that look like? Like, let's
Yeah.
say you want to take some rocks back from family and put them into your own health. What would that look like on a daily basis?
Right. Has to go
Yes.
to somebody else.
Yes.
So there's room
Yes.
in your own life.
Yes. Yeah.
I love Kim, if you haven't known. And so one of the activities she may have coached me on a few occasions. And so one of those occasions was, I think I had too much going on, or I was actually using the example of my husband kind of being in a place of having that urgent sense of everything is important and I'm not getting everything done.
Yes.
And you gave me this perfect activity. So talk about that one, because I think this can be helpful for people who are trying to navigate doing everything.
Yes. So when we are stressed out and overwhelmed, every task, everything we need to do feels urgent and important.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's there, it's very difficult to decide which things do we actually tend to and which things can we put off.
Right.
So it's like a 4-part chart thing. I'm having a menopause moment of it's a grid tool. So basically there's urgent and important,
Mm-hmm.
urgent, not urgent, but important, and not urgent, not important.
Right.
And so we start taking those tasks or those things that you feel like you need to do and put them in where they belong. So an example of urgent and important is your child has gotten into a car accident and you need to go be with them at the hospital. Yep. That's urgent and important.
Right.
You must do it.
Right.
And you must do it immediately.
Sure.
Right? Something that's urgent and not important is something that somebody else can do. Right?
Okay.
So that might be something like something breaks in your house. The furnace is broken, but there are 2 adults and your husband, that is their wheelhouse. They are much better at finding the service people. So the broken furnace is urgently in need of fixing,
right.
but it's not important for you. Right? So
that's so helpful.
Right?
Because I think when I had come to you about that, my husband was like at a level 10 of everything had to get done. And it really helps to kind of tease out like, nope, the leaves being raked are not
urgent.
Right?
Yes.
Urgent.
No.
Somebody has to do it at some point, but it might be something that
yes.
we don't necessarily
yes.
have to
so
do.
So things that are important but not urgent
right.
are things that must be done, but they don't need to be done immediately. Let's say you need your mammogram.
Right.
That is very important, but it doesn't need to be tended to this very second.
Good.
It can be scheduled later.
I like that.
Right? Not urgent, not important are things that really can wait and that you're not the only one that can do it.
And that's so important because I think, like, again, if everything is sending off these like bells and alarms, your nervous system can't handle it. What happens? I know what happens to me. I go into freeze.
Yeah.
So I have a list of all the very, very important things, but then I'm going to shut down and freeze. So that is super helpful.
That's functional freeze, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What other kinds of things are you talking to women about, tools for kind of navigating this period of time?
So, you know me, I'm a planner. I like to be able to plan things. So if there is a schedule set aside for certain management tools, right? Like I think that caring for your elderly parent should be seen kind of like a 9-to-5 job, unless there's something really urgent that happens off hours. But I don't think that we sort of open ourselves to be available 24/7. I think we have to sort of see it like a job. And, you know, I like that you have Wednesdays. That is your day that you're not in practice and that you use those days to tend to the meetings with your mom. And so that kind of thing. I think it's really, really important to set boundaries on that stuff. The other thing too, that I forget whether this person was a friend of yours. No, it wasn't. But she was struggling with this issue at home with her kids just wanting all the time, different times, like rolling in at 9:30. I need this help with my essay. And I'm like, is that working? No. She set office hours.
Yes.
These are my office hours for you.
Where I'm available. When my
from
energy
7
is still
to 9
good.
p.m. are my office hours. If it's not in those office hours, there best be a fire happening.
Right.
Because if not, it needs to wait until 7 to 9. My next office hours. It sounds like, well, that's kind of controlling of a mother to not make yourself available.
No.
I think it's a very loving gesture because you're going to be 100% on.
Yep.
Your phone's aside. You're not thinking about anything else other than tending to the needs of whoever it is between those hours.
You're also teaching your children, especially your daughters, we are not endless seas of anything for anybody.
Yes.
That you have to have boundaries around yourself and your finite amount of
Yes.
energy. So I think that's an important thing for them to get, even though it may be tough, especially if you've always been this endless well of everything for
Yeah.
everyone. People have a tough time adjusting to when you say, hey, but you know what, if you say, I'm drowning, and I have to do some things a little differently to take
Yes.
care of myself in this
Yes.
season of life. I love the setting boundaries around your time like it's a 9 to 5. Like I think I had said to you at some point, my mom, who I love very dearly, in her Alzheimer's, would call 100 times a day.
And we'd be trying to do work. And I heard that.
Yeah, you could hear the phone going off.
Yeah.
You could, and even if I don't take the call, my adrenaline is up. Now, she's someplace where she's safe and there's other people around her and all of those things. I had to block her on my phone. I still call her and I still check those.
Yes.
But it's just the issue with like my nervous system.
Yes.
So sometimes these things sound tough, but they're essential because you can't go down with the ship.
No.
And I mean, you pulled me ashore a couple of times where I was going down with the ship. I think
Yep.
it's important.
Absolutely. So going forward, for the woman that might be listening to this, trying to figure out like what would her next step be, right?
Yeah.
She's sort of feeling like the tug, right? Tug
Yep.
to help the parents, tug to help the kids. Maybe his husband needs, attention too. Where's the first place that she could start just
So
in her little world?
That's a great, my patients that are coming in are all like, in somewhere in 30s, plus, most of them. And I talk about that, even if they're there for gut health issues or menopause, like it all ties in, right? And so I talk about what are your other stressors and what's going on with your parents. And so what I encourage everyone to do is be proactive. And what I mean by that is you do not wait until dad has broken his hip and you figure out, oh crap, mom has dementia and what are we going to do? Having tough conversations with your parents ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love you. I'm not saying you're
You're gonna
old
die
and
tomorrow.
you need to die
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
But do you guys have a plan?
Yeah.
What are your wishes? Who's your POA? Have you put that in writing? Where's your bank? Do you have any money?
Do you have a will written?
Yeah. If you are getting to a place where you can't take care of yourself, have you thought about what that looks like or where you would want to be? Now, some parents automatically, you get a shut off like, oh, we're not talking about this. And kind of to nudge a little further in a loving way, I encourage people to have a conversation where you say, I want you to have choice in what happens to you.
Yeah.
And if we can't have these conversations now and there's an emergency, you lose your choice.
Yes.
Decisions will be made for you.
Yes.
So it's sort of like, so I always encourage that. That's like the biggest thing. And then because if you don't have these conversations, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to be an empty nester. We're going to travel to Europe. I'm at the height of my career, et cetera, et cetera. But if you have parents that are like, oh no, we're coming to live with you. And that was their plan all along. That was their whole plan for aging. And that was not your plan. You need to figure that out ahead of time. So I think
Can you imagine?
Oh, no, it happens. It happens. So I think it's really important that we get really real and right up front. I don't have it. This is not what I anticipated for my life. Let's look at some alternatives. I'm here for you with a boundary.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies, we hope this was really helpful. We hope that it allowed you to think about some things, too, that if you are in the midst of the sandwich generation, that maybe you're not feeling so alone about it and feeling like there are things you can do to protect your energy, to protect yourself, to still take care of you and be a good daughter and a good mother, but also not sacrifice all of yourself to be those things.
That's hugely important. And then a side note on that, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guilt that comes.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
yes, yeah.
So there's that, I'm in a Facebook group for caregivers or for sandwich generation. And there are some people on there that you're like, I am drowned. I can't do this. And they'll guilt you about, it was the best years of my life caring for my lovely mother. No, or you'll get family members. how could you with your mother? Like, and so it's really important that you have a robust support system and recognize that, again, things are different than they were too, because you'll get that from family, right? Our generation takes care of our own family. Yeah. So we're in different places. Like I look at where my mom was at my age, right? Different situation, retired, kids are out of the house. It's not realistic that a woman can, and let's be real, it's primarily on women, still be raising a family, be in the throes of her career, and caretake full time for a older family member. It's not doable.
No.
It's burnout.
No.
There's huge statistics on caregiver burnout and how I don't remember what the percentage is. It's terrible of the people who are caregiving who die before the person who they're caregiving for. It's huge.
Yes.
So anyway, guilt out the window. Yeah. You have one precious life. You need to take care of yourself. And I will end this with a little wise advice that I received. When you allow people to come in and caretake the everyday in and out, diapering, feeding, etc. of a loved one, you get the gift of no longer being their caregiver and instead being their, insert here, spouse, daughter, whatever.
You know, what we forgot to talk about too is we usually end with a success story.
Yeah.
But this time we're going to end with what can happen.
Sure.
If we don't care for ourselves during this time, or I shouldn't say that. If the burden becomes too large. So I have a very dear friend that this happened to, and the last few years of her life have been incredibly challenging. She did have a parent with Alzheimer's who recently passed. She has a mom with significant mental health issues. And at some point in their together, they were married, but not really a couple. She was advised by the medical community and the social services community where she lives to separate her parents, like physically, maritally separate them because they were causing such a ruckus in the community, right? So, roll forward, one of them is in one town, one of them's in another town. She's spending every weekend, sorting out the things. One of them, the one that is sort of ambulatory, still able to get around, is getting onto buses and trains and traveling around with Alzheimer's disease. Right. So really a really, really challenging situation, and no support from her own siblings, none. Her husband, beautiful human, great support, but the same thing on his side. They had 4 parents, all alive, each with very radical, different medical needs, like absolutely huge. Stress. Yes. And my friend, my age, in her own menopause, a real struggle with her menopause too, a very demanding job, way too much, until eventually she got really sick and ended up in full adrenal fatigue, which was something that wasn't even looked at years ago, but now we know it takes seriously. Yeah. So her advice from the physician, and she ended up at a specialist because her labs were so off, they didn't even know what to do with her. The advice was divorce your entire family or quit your job. There's no other choice. Wow. Yeah. So she was like, okay. So she had to take a leave of absence from her job for, I think she's out for 6 months, but we'll see what happens, what happens in the future. But yeah. And the first month or so of that time off, she slept.
That's
a really hard recovery.
It's really hard to recover from burnout. So our advice, lovely ladies, do not get yourself there. You are important.
Yes.
And you matter.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us this week. We will see you soon.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
And gents.
And gents.
Thanks for spending time with Vicki and I today on Fated to Fabulous, where midlife is just the beginning of your boldest chapter yet. If you got something out of today's episode, we'd love it if you'd share it with a friend and leave a review. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more support, inspiration, or sisterhood, come join us at fatedtofabulous.biz, because you were never meant to do midlife alone. Until next time, stay fabulous.